Hello and welcome. My name is Kyle Weddington, and this is my presentation on mitigating the risks of leaks with using community building. Leaks can be explained as any private information being distributed to a larger source. Essentially, within the game industry, this is giving out information about a title or a studio that the consumer either has not learned about yet or does not simply need to know. This can cause some serious issues for communities, products, and studios. One of the biggest risks with releasing this type of information is within early development or pre-production, as at this time games aren't necessarily ready to be revealed or shown to the public yet. There are plenty of different ways that companies have been trying to deal with leaks, but I believe one of the most innovative ways and the best solution is to build and establish a connection to the fan base. Leaks have been around since the beginning of the industry, causing a ton of bad and some good for the industry. A lot of studios have been affected by leaks, and this can really damage sales, production, and even cancel projects altogether. And one example of how leaks have affected a product is Pokemon Sword and Shield. Early in development, this game was leaked that not all characters were going to be featured in the release. This caused a lot of upset in the community, which ended up affecting how well the game performed within sales. There are other cases of leaks affecting games poorly, and then there's also cases of them affecting them positively. This is mainly to do with the three different types of leaks: intentional leaks, unintentional leaks, and strategic leaks. Intentional leaks are any type of leaks that are given out by a specific person to either give themselves some type of boost or negatively affect the product or studio. This generally happens whenever someone isn't necessarily happy with the studio or the product that they're working on, and they feel like something needs to happen, so they leak out information. One of the biggest one of the biggest examples of this is Half-Life 2. Before Half-Life 2 was going to release, a person named Axel Gamby hacked into the Valve's infrastructure and ended up stealing a video of the project. This video, he never intended to actually release it out to the public, but eventually he started talking to a third party, and they ended up leaking out the information. Axel was eventually tried of stealing Valve's information about Half-Life, so there was a little bit of a relief there, but there was still information released about Half-Life that Valve never intended to be released at that point. Unintentional leaks are any type of leaks that occur on accident. This tends to happen between coworkers or employees and outside people through casual conversation or generally just talking and some type of information getting released that they don't necessarily mean to. There really aren't a whole lot of cases on this, seeing as it is a little bit hard to judge if a leak is intentional or unintentional. But one of the leaks that most people believe is unintentional usually come through Nintendo. One of the cases being one of the more recent Fire Emblem games releasing. There was a few leaks that came out about it that a lot of people thought were unintentional, because Nintendo is usually pretty strict about their leaking info. Then the last type of leaks is strategic leaks. These occur whenever information is giving out about the product from a company themselves. Generally, this is done for marketing tactics, to give the consumers a little bit of information about the game without properly releasing that information to them. This is another one that is a little hard to judge if it's strategic or unintentional or intentional, mainly because a lot of the studios don't generally say that they strategically leaked out this information. One example that generally is thought to be strategic is with Red Dead Redemption 2 in Rockstar. Rockstar does occasionally, their maps do leak out for their games. And this happened for Red Dead Redemption 2. The map leaked out, generated a lot of excitement for the game, and ended up helping them out a little bit with marketing. A lot of people do think that this is a strategic leak because of some of the outcomes of the leak, and also because it has happened with a few other Rockstar games. So, with leaks being this kind of double edged sword, there needs to be a lot more measures in place on how to deal with them. A lot, one way to deal with them is increasing security. This is generally increasing security on actual computers themselves. Essentially allowing or not allowing employees to open up certain programs to make sure that they can't purposely leak out information or unintentionally leak out information through uses of social media or other programs where they could accidentally send off something. On top of this, increasing punishments for leaks that would also fall into increasing the security, essentially making it more detrimental to the employee to actually leak out information. Another option is to teach employees more and inform them more about the repercussions of leaking, what it actually means to leak information, and how it generally happens. Essentially, informing them more about intentional, unintentional, and strategic leaks and how those really not just affect the or negatively affect a studio, but how they also negatively affect consumers with spoiling their, experience and generally ruining a lot of potential sales. The last one, and what I believe is the best solution, is to build a community around your product to have a direct line of communication with your community and your potential sales. This is what I believe to be the best solution because it does give you that direct line, and not only does it let you try and get ahead of leaks, but also you have a good way of dealing with the backlash of them. Let's say something leaks out, you can use your community to actually explain to them why you're making these design choices, why the development is going this way, and exactly what's happening with it. On top of that, you could also release information through that community, kind of reducing the urge for certain people to try and seek out that information and to leak it out themselves. Now, with all these informations with all these different solutions with how to improve this, there is a lot of flaws with them too. Mainly with improving the security, it really only deals with intentional leaks instead of the unintentional and the strategic. Obviously, the strategic leaks don't need to be dealt with as much because that's generally up to the marketing team or the company to leak out that information. But with improving security, it's really only dealing with allowing or not allowing employees to send out files and to leak information themselves. It would also help a little bit with unintentional, with kind of reducing the ways that information could actually get out of the company. With teaching the employees, it kind of deals with the same issues as improved security, as it's not necessarily that it's going to completely stop them from doing intentional and unintentional. It's more they're going to be more knowledgeable and more understanding of what these are. So employees that still feel the urge to release leaks or information, more than likely they're still going to release that leaks or information. Having more knowledge about it is only going to really help the people that don't really understand leaking and kind of hoping to inform them a little bit more about how to prevent it. Building communities, although it is the best solution, there is still some issues. Mainly, it is more of a damage control than trying to completely stop the leaks from happening. It's more of, like I said, damage control, where if a leak does happen, you have a very strong way to talk to your community and explain to them exactly what's happening so that you don't have any type of risks of losing a fan base or player base because of a design choice. Another thing is it doesn't really limit the risk from happening, but it can, like I said earlier, stop the feeling of having to actually leak out that information. So, overall, leaks are a very serious and vital topic to the industry. It's something that really needs to be focused on more and something that needs to be addressed. Without addressing leaks and without understanding them and understanding ways to deal with them, it could really hurt a lot of consumers. It can hurt a ton of the industry and a lot of different studios. And it can really help to have these type of strategies in place. On top of that, it can also help marketing out a lot because you're not having to fight with someone over when to release this information. If we find a way to deal with leaks, then you would have 100% control over when to release that information and properly market the game. Communities definitely need to be implemented into more studios. There is a few studios already doing this, such as Riot Games. They're really good about having a community. They're really open about their issues within the studio, why they're doing certain things, and what they're working on. And if we can, or more studios can kind of use this structure of communities, it can help out a lot more with dealing with these leaks and having a lot more transparency with consumers of exactly what's happening. But like most research, this isn't the final option. There's plenty of more research that can be done with leaks, and there's plenty of options that can happen that aren't stated here. One of the things is researching more of how leaks actually start and how consumers use them. So essentially, how the leaked information actually gets there and how they actually see it and how consumers use it and utilize it to influence their purchasing and stuff. On top of that, involving more invasion of infrastructure and improving the infrastructure security a little bit more so that the hackers and people that are trying to steal this information have a little bit more difficult time doing it. And that's definitely an area that could be researched a lot more. And of course, more ways of dealing with the leaks. Of course, these three, they're not the end all of ways of dealing with leaks. There's tons of different ways that are not explored of how to do it. Thank you so much for listening.